So where's the streaming? It's streaming all over, actually, Canada, California, Arizona, Peru. I have to check with people around the I think there's, the most I had on one time is 21, but I think that we have like 26 altogether. And that we're considering that we need to really, we're going to go out on like Monday. Well, there's like, the people who don't want to do it, like, there's two different people who have done it like that, or like, we should do, you know, and not we just have a paper and she wants to call it up on the pen, so there's the husband, she was just saying, sure. Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Ever?
Yeah, this is true.
No, check out. Signal. But if you have a right, I guess it's only yeah, there's yeah, that's where it is. Tracy. Okay, get right up. Oh, yeah, I wish it was I know.
Oh, yeah. Okay. At 8 o'clock, right after this one's done, whoever's sitting there, stay there. Stay put. All the pictures. Push you up the movement in circle.
Oh, okay.
So, after this one, okay. Freeze.
Chief is here. The chief.
Yes, that's Rose.
Okay, I got my guitar and I want to look at it better. Before, because I'm going to be on their schedule.
Yeah. So what we usually do is, this is workshops and stuff like that. After the next speaker, rather than stay around, we take all your pictures. No, here and just go to our center pictures. And use
Storytelling is
you're showing,
now the round dance,
that's why we
yeah, I know, I was gonna do that would be in the back.
oh no, we can move that.
Oh, I didn't
There's
know.
nothing down there.
You want me to, get back the CD, so it should be, that's what I'm gonna count on to do. I talked to somebody, yes,
No, I'll do something else.
okay.
Computer, we're gonna power the
I didn't bring anything. Yeah. Yeah, I have a direct, you have four direct, I actually signed up at I have to pick up the side. And I wrote the board. I need two miles. Yeah.
Like it is, people have a word for it, I don't know.
Never worked for the other.
But if they just need to do two mics. You can play that.
There's only one mic, only one that, that's because you have your mic. How's that? I could, let's see, you might be able to put
Sorry about that. Welcome back to Star Knowledge Conference, Tuesday evening. People are just coming back from dinner, and we have a wonderful speaker, Shirley Goldstock, who will be joining us shortly. So we're getting ready to go in just a moment.
It might be Saturday.
We'll do that in just a moment.
Kind of jump in where you want to.
I don't have to speak at a podium.
Yeah.
Let me see who's on.
I want to show off my new look, okay? But everybody wears fake rubber stuff.
Rose, yes. Are you gonna need a podium?
Well, we're trying to get my guitar like that.
It's on.
Second.
Could you help me with the moves?
Yeah.
Right, because I'm gonna yank somebody out of here.
Yeah, we'll be good.
Well, I do want to do it about 35 minutes. 30. Yeah. And then give me a.
Yes. Check. So we're back live streaming. How is everybody doing? Good. So we are getting ready for our next speaker. Yeah. Woohoo! Thank you. So our next speaker is Shirley Goldstock. Shirley is a psychic, works with energy and new methods of transformational energy work with DNA activation. And Shirley will tell you a little bit more about herself. I'd like to come up to the stage and share your information with us. Thank you so much. Shirley Goldstock.
Oh, super. The work I do seems to be right in tune with the Earth Star Conference. It is brought in by outworlders. It is activations that work with our personal DNA. And it's all about transformation
and it's about frequency, and it's about vibration. And I'm going to read something to you that I think describes it pretty well. It is a quote from Powell L. Chang. What is consciousness? In its essence, consciousness is a subtle energy field of pure potentiality where there is infinite possibility and creativity. Within consciousness lies an informational field of feedback and awareness that gives us a sense of self. In other words, consciousness gives us the ability to observe, experience, and be aware of our existence. Besides being an informational field, consciousness is also a unified field of function that expresses outward with diversity, and this unified field is everywhere and in everything. And that is why consciousness is one of the fundamental forces of creation. One of the first acts of God, the very first act of God, was creation. The God that said, I am. I am, that permeates into everything we are, to every existence we experience. The first act of God was creation. And in the act of God being creation is the act of free will, the power to choose. The power to choose how we wish to express ourselves, how to dress, how to create, how to think, what interests us, what makes us who we are, how we experience the gifts of the Spirit through the I am presence. Throughout time and throughout the power of free choice, we start to learn that consciousness has momentum. And consciousness can be like a snowball running down a hill. And as time goes on, consciousness starts to grow. It starts to perpetuate itself. It starts to become its own entity. And through motion, and through torsion, and through energy, belief, in experiencing the same act of consciousness over and over again, it becomes a life force of its own. Consciousness is in everything. And it is DNA. It is the ether that is out in space. It is the ether that you bring in to create. And it affects every body, physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, all ethereal bodies and all translucent bodies that are a part of who we are. DNA is a record keeper. It keeps the attitudes, the information, the intelligence, and that is what creates who we are within our physical existence. But there are those knowing how information works, how we hold consciousness, how we have the power to create, may create a circumstance that could cause us, through our own freedom of choice, to be manipulated through our own act of creation. It doesn't mean this happens in all things, but if you have enough consciousness, it can create itself. If we have a strawberry 2,000 years ago that we declare God, this strawberry is God, and you give it 2,000 years of belief, consciousness, worship, I can guarantee that strawberry will act, do miracles, and answer your prayers and behave like a God. Why? Because as being a part of God, we have the ability to create. And we got to watch that we control our creations, but our creations do not control us. So through frequency, vibration, God's universe is math. All things are frequency. All things have vibration. DNA is in all species. DNA is in all aspects of life, trees, planets, Genesis, as it continues to create itself and grow as a torsion. Well, what happens when the illusion is created and the illusion gains momentum and consciousness? And instead of going to source, we believe that what has most momentum in consciousness is our truth and is our reality. What I have found, or what I have been blessed to have been given, is a process that works with vibration and frequency that can help change the DNA patterning of how we experience life every day. And I have been given information that all of us can use, all of us can create with, and every single one of us can integrate. What I have found is the I am presence is number one. And we hear a lot about 0 point frequency. 0 point frequency being God. Well, it is true that in 0 point frequency, you can create as all potential is in 0 point frequency, waiting to become experienced. So what does this mean? It means that neutralization is truly the big opposition. You could say, hey, what is the opposite of fire? And most would say water. But water puts out fire. Fire does not put out water. The true opposite of fire is no fire. The true opposite of water is no water. The true opposite of love is not hate. Hate is only a distortion of love. Most people who hate feel that they can't be loved or they missed out on being loved. The true opposition of love is indifference, feeling nothing at all. And what happens when we are perhaps created by outworlders who helped fashion our DNA, who wanted to program us to serve? But being a part of God's natural creation, we have the right to our independence. We have the right to our choice through creation. So what happens if our choice through creation is to serve in a slave-master relationship? We can see that the world has many issues. Wars, each god is better than the other god, people killing in the name of God, people repeating the same patterns in their lives over and over and over again. So we have to look for a resolve. We have to look for, why is this happening? Many of us light workers now are working with DNA, are working with transformation. This is what's resonating to all of us. It works, this type of work works with the codons, works with the polymers, works in the cells. And my friend Gregory Carey Chapman has done extensive research on the codons and the cells. And you can look up this information on namaste-wi.com. I have found that in DNA, it is all frequency, it is all information, it's a record keeper, and when it brings the information into the physical body changes. So when you have a case such as multiple personality disorders, have you ever noticed that one personality could be blind, one could be deaf, the other one has allergies, the other one does not? How does this happen in the same body? It happens because the information and the patterns and the torsion that has been brought into the body is changing, and the codes are changing. And they are experiencing something different in the same body. So it isn't unreasonable to believe that if we change the frequency and the vibration that's in the human body will change. The way we think will change. The way we behave will change. And the patterns that we have been experiencing will stop happening if they are not to our utmost highest good. We could also bring in enhancements. We could also bring in connection through DNA. What I found out that was interesting is God equals 1. 1 is the ultimate beautiful number. 1 goes into everything. God, in order to know God, must come back into God to experience itself. All things are number 1. And we know about infinity numbers like number 9. The gematria number 9 is you divide by 9, by 9, by 9. All of this goes back into the number 1. Well, I found myself fascinated by these formulas, where I would bring these up on internet and stare at them cross-eyed until my friends thought maybe I had a little phobic, a number addiction. But I knew that there was an answer in this. So what I found out was 9s all go back into 1. Infinity numbers all work together. And if all DNA codes in the physical and in the universe have codes that all work together in unison, and they all call out to one another, what happens when there's a distortion in that frequency of codes? They will certainly work to try to create themselves or correct themselves, but what could happen in the distortion, it starts compounding itself, creating more distortion. I was very disturbed when I was working with quite a few abductees who had been taken in by UFOs. They came back very disturbed. They seemed to have their DNA worked with. They were not the same people. They felt tormented. They were upset. And I went for hours of healing work on these folks, reading everything I could, changing everything I could, working with different templates of transformational energy, and they felt great for about 2 weeks. And after about 2 weeks, I get a phone call, and they were right back to the way they were. And I threw a spiritual tantrum. And I asked God what gives. This should not be happening. If anything, if we are divine, we have the divine right to experience our own creation the way we want, to be able to get ourselves attuned to the God I Am presence. And I got told, out of the blue, the eight's missing. And I stopped and said, excuse me. Voice came back. The eight's missing. Well, I was a little curious. I was told to get on the calculator. And, okay, let's play numbers. Let's see what happens here. So they told me to divide 1 by 9, which I did. And of course, I got a series of 1s. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Well, I was thrilled. There it is, the God I Am. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. This is fabulous. I love this. They said, great. Divided by 9 again, which I did. And I got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. Back into the numbers of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. I said, wait a minute, the 8's missing. And they're like, yeah, duh. So I asked them what was the deal here. Whereas the number 9s are gematria that go back into the God I Am presence. What I was told was there's a false link between the 7 and the 9 that's been programmed to go back into the I Am soul mapping, almost like a false chain. But it's got enough of the DNA that it was able to connect that chain, going back into the I Am presence and moving out into the number 1. I thought it was pretty clever myself. And I asked, how was this programmed? And it was because we were programmed to serve a master race. So the illusion is that chain link between the 7 and the 9. Well, then I have to come up with the next problem here. How do I put the 8 back into that chain link? How do we get the correct DNA coding back into the I am presence? And I was given the number 72. I said it has to be a mutable of 9, 8, and actually 6. The 12 carries 2 6s. We are in the 12-12 energies. Crop circle back in England in, I think it was 2012, brought in the divine 72. A beautiful pattern of 6 patterns of 12. And they all go back to the number 1. Back on the calculator. So of course, 72 divided by 9 equals 8. But then I found out when I divided 8 by 72, I got a series of 1s. You do the math, and don't do it on your cell phones because it rounds things. Do it on your calculators. It comes out to 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And I have an energy activation process that works with the divine 72, that kicks out the illusion and brings in the divine manifestation, which is the number 8. And that is why I call these the divine 8 attunements. I have changed the eye color in maybe 98% of my clients after using these. They are very powerful. And of course, I couldn't wait to try them on the abductees that I had been experiencing so much trouble. And I had 100% tell me that their lives had changed. That instead of going back out into their former selves, they no longer felt tortured, tormented, and they were able to go on with their lives. So I had to seriously consider what was going on here. And if you look back through generations, you've heard of the blood of the forefathers, the blood of the ancestors that carry through our veins. Have you ever noticed how disease, addiction, attitudes seem to carry from one generation to another? That means that information is being transferred from one generation to another. So what happens when a curse happens 300 years ago? And this curse seemed to really take effect on these people's lives. And then the next generation seems to experience this curse. And then maybe the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and next thing you know, this is being repeated historically. And this doesn't just happen through the blood of our forefathers. This happens through history. It continues and continues and continues. And we say, never forget. We can't repeat this. But why does it keep repeating? Why do we keep repeating the same patterns of the forefathers? Why do we keep going after, my God is better than your God? And repeating war after war when we're in an age where technology transformation is evident, but it keeps happening. One of the things that was brought to my attention is it was key for using the Divine 72 in order to neutralize. You could actually transform out the patterns like they never existed in the first place. A shadow is formed. Darkness only lives by permission of the light, because the object and the light will create a shadow. Shadow contracts. It cannot, darkness contracts. Darkness cannot sustain itself. It's impossible. It will keep contracting. So it can only live by permission of the light, which means it can create itself within a shadow, and the more consciousness in that shadow, the darker that shadow gets. But what happens when you remove that object out of the light? You can't describe the shadow anymore. It's like it never existed in the first place. Like it's been neutralized. And the memory of that consciousness erased. When you look at it that simply, it's almost annoying. You know, all I had to do was neutralize this, and that was it. You know, we work on ourselves, and we go to work, and we go to work, and it's transformation, and we try this, and we try that, we go to all these healers, and it is in layers, there's no doubt about it. There are private universes created with these type of consciousness every day. And what was described to be that in creating a slave-master relationship, you have to create a God that takes on narcissistic qualities, a God that demands worship, that only that religion is correct. You have the right to kill those who don't follow that narcissistic God. And it demands endless and endless loyalty without truly understanding who God is. And people fall into this so easily. Why is that? Well, I think one, the illusion being programmed into our DNA helped create that. And I think also, when you give momentum to the concept of a narcissistic God that keeps you from your connection with the true God I am, the true God of love, the God that is an individual God of love, as well as the one. God is one. And all are encompassed in that one loving God. So we have a narcissistic consciousness that is created throughout generation from generation. This could have gone on for 26,000 years. The civilizations before that for 26,000 years. This could be millions of years old. What happens when you have that kind of consciousness? There's so many masters that came out to tell the truth about what that was really about, who the Father is, what the true God I am is. But why do they snap back into this narcissistic God consciousness? And why are we so afraid to leave that consciousness? Well, it has momentum. And worse yet, when that has momentum, narcissism becomes holy. You can become an extension of God ego, or you become the martyr with endless sacrifice without service, because sacrifice in itself becomes holy. And in that, you created the perfect master-slave relationship. And this is why these wars and these things keep perpetuating. There is power in language. DNA is language. It speaks, it resonates out to one another. Have you ever met someone that gets in an abusive relationship, gets a fix, it gets in another, and they get another, and they get another, and maybe their mother and father did it, and their mother and father did it. This is the kind of thing that keeps perpetuating. And then if you keep keeping narcissistic consciousness as something that's a part of the very God you worship, then people start acting out, feeling that this type of consciousness is godly. It's just bound to happen. Isn't that the language that's resonating out? So when we are able, through frequency, through transformation, through understanding the God I am, through the mutable number one, we all have the power to transform out, connect to the God I am, and change the language in our DNA. We all can. This is for all of us. These activations have been brought to me through the Outworlders. They go out endless dimensions, endless light years. Some of the fleets and armadas that bring in these activations are numerous. They go out into the thousands and thousands. And I was told there are more in the millions. This conference of the 1212 today. I would like to demo this and just kind of give you an idea how it works. But just in working with these patterns and frequencies themselves are powerful. And I think you'll find them very fascinating and very interesting. So I would also say, and Golden Eagle made a great point about language. The American Indian people need to embrace their original language. It will change their DNA back to bring their power back to the people. So thank you for bringing that up. It's very powerful and very, very important. So I have two forms of activations I'm going to demo today. One will be the 8 attunement. And I'd also like to have an attunement for what I call the narcissistic consciousness, where I go into 0 point and we go back into the generations and start removing these type of things. So what also happens, which is very fascinating, is it also affects those in the afterlife. They carry the imprint. There was a gal that I worked with that there was many early deaths in the males in her family. It had gone on for several generations. But that imprint was still even on those in the afterlife. Even if they've been reincarnated, those aspects still carried that information. So what had happened was 56 men showed up in the ancestry, in the afterlife, and only did we clear her in order to help her son and her brothers. 56 of our ancestors got cleared that day. Very powerful stuff. So, I've been seeing you smile the whole time.
You want to chair?
I'll get behind her.
You want to stand?
You need to stare.
Want me to push you up?
Might be a good idea. Well, they're flat.
Or not?
Yeah, you'll be all right.
Face you.
Okay, let me look at your eyes for a minute. You might already be changing. She's got some very attractive blue eyes. By the way, I put blue rims on probably every brown-eyed person I've worked on. And when you get your Afro-Americans, they find it quite amusing. So her eyes can change. I've seen blue eyes go to green, green to blue, turquoise. We've seen a lot of very different types of these activations on how they can change things. So I am going to.
I think I'll have you help me just hold the microphone.
Yeah, and your glasses.
All right, thank you. Okay. And what I'm using matrix energetics. I'm using matrix energetics. This is the modality I'm using to do these activations. And these activations come through any modality you want to use. If you're a shaman, they'll come through. If you do Reiki, they'll come through. It does not matter. You don't have to do them one way.
I'm going to have you hold it kind of close to me because I'm going to kind of use some numbers.
Okay, can I get you to call out your name?
Barbara?
Full name.
Barbara K. Charlson.
Thank you. And I'm going to have you whisper your birthday to me. I'm not going to broadcast it. Okay. Can you read?
There's that.
We'll have to edit it. All right, in your place of birth.
Forest City, Iowa.
Forest City, Iowa. Okay, I'm going to have you step back just a little bit. I might even have you help me catch it. Okay, I'm going to go in, and I'm going to be using the Divine 72. And this is matrix energetics. So when you feel this, that is the matrix. And believe me, we got a very strong woman behind you that can catch you if you start to come down, okay? So I'm going to go in, and I'm going to do what I just described with the calculator. 1 divided by 9 equals 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Divided by 9 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. Okay, I'm skipping the number 8. I'm going to go into some different numbers, going back into the Divine 72. So I'm going to work with 22. 2 plus 2 equals 4, plus 4 equals 8. Times 9 equals 72. Divided by 9 equals 8. 8 times 8 equals 64. 6 plus 4 equals 10, 1 plus 0 equals 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. 44, 4 plus 4 equals 8, times 9 equals 72, divided by 9 equals 8, minus 2 equals 6, times 12 equals 72, divided by 2 equals 36, minus 3 equals 33, 3 plus 3 equals 6 times 12 equals 72, divided by 9 equals 8, divided by 72 is 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And we're going to integrate, and we're going to activate, and I brought it to a 33. Activate 33, attunement now, and I'm going to count bringing the 8 back in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, to the power of 3. I'm gonna record these changes in the Akashic records in all time frames and dimensions, past, present, and future, all levels of the soul, all dimensions of spirit, and all parallel lives, and all time frames, dimensions, all bodies, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, ethereally, and all translucent bodies, and all universes and alternate universes, all timelines, alternate and direct. Or, give me your name again. Barbara K. Charles. So that's a very transformational thing. We're going to do one more thing. And I'm going to do what I call the narcissist rate. And I'm going to do this very quickly. And I'm going to go back into some generations, and we're going to remove some things. And I'm feeling something with the women in her generations. And the women have gone through a lot of, personally, I think they've gone through some abuse. They've gone through some things that have not been good for them. So I'm going to go back into her mother's line through the narcissist rate. So once again, it uses a divine 8, but it uses it differently. So I'm going to go, here we go. 8 divided by 9 equals 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8. Divided by 9 equals 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 0. I'm skipping the I am, going into 0 point frequency, and I'm going back. Infinite number of generations for the mother's lines for Barbara Charleston, and neutralizing all narcissistic consciousness and aspects related to abuse. In our women's line, infinite number of generations. Neutralize now. And we're going to divide that by 8. And once again, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. Divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 equals 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And now we will integrate and activate all neutralization. Narcissist consciousness, reconnection to the I am presence, line. And we're going to record these changes in the Akashic records for Barbara Charleston in all time frame spaces, a continuum, and all spaces in between. All worlds, all alternate worlds, galaxies, and alternate universes and universes. Now, it's important to me to record these changes in the Akashic records. So the Akashic records are our records from the time of creation. So if you can record these type of changes in the Akashic records, it's always advised. All right, Barbara, how do you feel? Let me see her eyes. It might be kind of hard to tell because I'm this direct light. I think they look a deeper blue to me. Usually what happens is the rim darkens around the eye. You'll get darker rims around the eyes. You'll see stars starting to show up around the color. Gold will show up around the pupil. And colors do change. I've turned several people turquoise. You see, I swear my clients get stopped at dinner and asked who fills at their eyes.
Wow.
She has emerald green eyes now. Dave has several colors in his eyes. These are just a wonderful and amazing gift that I believe that the art worlders have brought to us, that the God I am, who wishes to know each and every one of us through our connection, through the number one, through the true God I am, and not a God who is a narcissist. That is an illusion, folks. That does not exist. The true I am, true connection. God wants each and every one of us to know that connection. How much time do we have?
A half hour.
Few minutes?
I'll go up.
What's that?
It's 7:47.
It's 7:47, so we got about 3 minutes. So, is that correct? Yeah. All right. What I did, my workshop is about these activations. So my workshop is at 9. I'm one of the later ones. And what I'll be doing is working with these attunements and these divine activations in the workshop. So please come see me there if you want to know more about it. And you've been a very amazing and very gracious audience. And your energy is just wonderful. So I thank you. And Janine, thank you.
Well, everybody, we're gonna try to organize the chairs and have a circle. Yeah.
Right away, or it's like the first time she did it, it was took a little longer, but after that, now she just if I just and you had to, you just like had the control, you're like following people like that, like oh my god, and I forgot my business card like a fool, but I'll have them tomorrow. Yeah, I think a lot of us are. I think we're all getting very similar information, and that this is where. Yes. And matrix. Oh, good. Okay, so you understand.
People's possessions like that.
Yeah, but it's all correct. It's all correct. But that's nice for us. I could teach you how to do it. The 2 months could come through. I think so. The numbers. Yeah. It's literally changing. Yeah. And I thought it's changing information and the body. That's what it's
Yeah, I tried to do that.
Latino was very blue.
So I did blue the center or?
Yeah, for ribs. We'll go to the bathroom. We'll get the color.
Can you make a workshop at 9?
I'll try.
Okay, well, I'll give you my number. I'm sorry that I don't have the business card that you have to bring in.
Yeah, I was wondering if I could.
I have a mirror in my purse.
I want to try to show that.
Yeah, that's okay. I've got,
Well, I'm gonna go sign up for your workshop.
So,
Okay.
yeah, go look at the bathroom, please.
Yeah. You have a tie, has a rounds on.
No, they're just one round.
Why not?
These chairs are on.
Thank you, and you helped me.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure, everyone.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
You totally remember.
Oh, yeah, and I understood everything we're doing on Zoom. My phone was working with your
Oh,
resolution.
You know, that's confirmation.
Yeah, let me look at it. How did you get it?
No, I'm asking her.
I'm gonna undo mine.
So that way we can.
Here's your-
If you divide it by 7.